It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming for Thursday, October 16th. Bringing you headlines from the Cowboy State Daily News Center, I'm Mac Watson. Brought to you by the Wyoming Business Council. Wyoming youth are our future, but they're leaving the state at almost twice the national average. What would bring them back home? You can share your bold ideas with the Wyoming Business Council at wbc.pub/story. The recent discovery of a human skull in a cave in Carbon County has reopened a mystery for a woman who wonders if the find could be linked to her aunt, who's been missing for 107 years. Cowboy State Daily's Scott Schwebke reports a family member contacted Cowboy State Daily and related her story.
After that story published, we got an email from a woman who wondered if it might be her long-lost aunt who disappeared or hasn't been seen since like 1918. She was a 16-year-old girl, lived on a ranch and eloped, lied about her age, said she was 18 to get married to a guy who was a sheep rancher, and they went to Utah and got married. And allegedly, she decided she didn't want to be married, and she just either went somewhere else or came back.
Sherry Boatman of Mills also tells Cowboy State Daily that in her research, she discovered that in the 1920 census, the former husband of her aunt listed himself as a widow. The Carbon County Coroner's Office plans to consult with anthropological experts to find out more information. The case of a Uintah County man accused of using an artificial intelligence application to remake a photo of a teenage girl he knows into child pornography resurrects some lawmakers' concerns about AI deception. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that the issue isn't so cut and dry.
A lot of moving pieces here, because in 2002, you had the U.S. Supreme Court say, look, virtual child pornography is protected under the First Amendment. And then you have the explosion of AI and deepfakes and really realistic. We're not talking about cartoons anymore. And we're sometimes talking about the faces of real people depicted in child pornography. Well, that's what's alleged to have happened in Uintah County, where you have a man who had a mostly benign photo of a teenage girl. And he is accused of using generative technology to turn it into child pornography. Now he's facing multiple felonies, but lawmakers in the meantime are like, we've rejected efforts to legislate in this space in the past. Maybe we should have a look at it again.
The case of Matthew John McDowell, who turns 47 this year, rose Tuesday to the felony level in Uintah County District Court. McDowell faces 4 counts of child pornography possession, and each is punishable by between 7 and 12 years in prison and up to $10,000 in fines. A Laramie County Sheriff's Office detective report exposes graphic details about the abhorrent conditions of more than 100 hoarded animals that were kept in a man's home, according to documents filed in Cheyenne Circuit Court. Cowboy State Daily's Jackson Walker reports the animal owner, Michael O'Hearn, who is accused of hoarding over 100 animals, kept them in deplorable conditions at his Cheyenne area house.
Officers were saying things such as there were feces all over the house, there were dead animals littering the place, it was covered with mice and insects, and that when they went into this residence, they had to cover themselves in protective equipment, wearing bodysuits and respirators in order to keep themselves safe. There were 22 dead animals found on the property, one of which was an unknown animal that actually turned out to be the carcasses of 4 house cats that had fused together.
The Laramie County Sheriff's Office recommended 22 counts of felony aggravated cruelty to animals against O'Hearn for each of the 22 animals the agency said it found dead inside the house. O'Hearn made a virtual appearance in Cheyenne Circuit Court on Wednesday, during which the judge set his bond at $100,000. Wyoming Senator Cynthia Lummis introduced a bill on Tuesday to end the prosecution of diesel delete mechanics, free them from prison, and expunge all related penalties from their records. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports Senator Lummis has already asked for a presidential pardon for Cheyenne diesel delete mechanic Troy Lake.
She wrote a letter to the president a few weeks ago saying this man has been rescuing vehicles that have to conquer the Wyoming winter, and he was sent to prison for several months. So she did that, and I think she's waiting on word from the president. Then in the meantime, she went ahead and raised the issue again with some legislation that dropped Tuesday that is ambitious, as one delete lawyer put it. It would basically try to nullify whole portions of the Clean Air Act, free every delete mechanic from jail or prison, and expunge their records, including civil cases.
Now, if Senator Lummis's bill does become law, the Diesel Truck Liberation Act would signify a victory for diesel truck drivers and other diesel fleet holders, such as fire trucks, ambulances, and school buses, who have removed or tampered with the mandatory emissions systems on those vehicles. I'll be back with more news right after this.
Did you know 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in her lifetime? Early detection saves lives, and regular mammograms are one of the most effective ways to detect breast cancer early. Find peace of mind and relieve the pain of not knowing where your breast health stands. Get your mammogram at Outpatient Radiology, where we are proud to put your comfort and care first. We find the answer for your peace of mind.
Governor Mark Gordon has announced the Cowboy State Agricultural Initiative and is appointing a 13-member working group committed to preserving Wyoming's agricultural heritage for current and future generations. Cowboy State Daily's David Madison reports that sheep farming in particular could benefit from this initiative.
It's a huge industry producing wool and lamb in Wyoming, and it's getting harder and harder to do that. I spoke to members of the working group that are part of that initiative. Several of them have some connection to the sheep industry. And so through the sheep industry, we really discussed all the different challenges out there. Passing a ranch or farm on to the next generation can be difficult these days because margins are tight, and the next generation coming up might know how to run the baler and manage a line of fence and move some cows, but maybe they don't understand how to finance, how to insure, how to really do the legalese and financial paperwork that is required to run an operation.
The group includes executive branch advisors, state legislators, a county commissioner, agricultural association representatives, University of Wyoming officials, and business leaders. The political fallout from Radiant Nuclear pullout from Wyoming to build in Tennessee continues. But as Jackson Walker reports, Representative Bill Alamond says his fiery opposition to accept nuclear waste storage in Wyoming has tarnished some political relationships.
In September, State Representative Bill Alamond came in and testified at a meeting of the Bar None Town Council, which is sort of out of character for state representatives to do in these situations because these are local issues that aren't necessarily a part of their jurisdiction. Mayor Peter Boyer told me that this interaction rubbed him the wrong way and that he's still pretty upset with Alamond even though the fate of the nuclear project has already been decided.
The mayor of Bar None tells Cowboy State Daily that he doesn't want to work with Bill Alamond anymore unless he absolutely has to. Wyoming outdoorsmen are warning about the dangers of hunting as the accidental shooting deaths of 2 Idaho hunters in the past week highlights the dangers of unsafe hunting. 21-year-old Kaylina Orr of Blackfoot, Idaho, died on Friday from a gunshot wound to the chest while on a hunting trip in a remote area of Fremont County, Idaho. Then, on Sunday morning, California resident Nathan Thomas Kaz, 48 years old, died from blood loss after suffering a gunshot wound to the leg in rural Clark County, Idaho. Outdoors reporter Mark Hines, who is currently away from his laptop out hunting, says as some hunting areas across Wyoming become more crowded every season, the potential for accidental injuries or deaths from other hunters increases. When the University of Wyoming football team takes the field October 25th for the 117th border war against Colorado State University, there'll be a noticeable color contrast. Cowboy State Daily's Andrew Rossi reports the usual color scheme of brown and gold will be replaced to reflect an important Wyoming industry.
In the spirit of Wyoming's coal industry, the University of Wyoming Athletics Department partnered with the Wyoming Mining Association to design a black and white uniform that's going to be debuted during the border war on October 25th. And it's a pretty stark contrast from what most people expect to see the UW Cowboys wearing. But it's to honor the coal miners and the families who have supported that industry, which has supported Wyoming basically since its inception. So it's going to be a pretty jarring contrast. But the quote, Cowboy State Daily columnist Sally Ann Schumer, anything that helps us beat the sheep is fine with UW.
Now, the alternative uniform is part of a one-game-only partnership between the University of Wyoming and the Wyoming Mining Association. Go Pokes! And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting that daily newsletter button on cowboystatedaily.com. And you can watch this newscast every day by clicking subscribe on our YouTube channel or listen to us on your favorite podcast app. Thanks for watching. I'm Mac Watson for Cowboy State Daily.